By utilizing these scenic elements, stairs, platforms, ramps, um, Appia was able to create visual interest, and it enhanced the performance. The moving actor now had somewhere to go, and it wasn't just him on a flat horizontal stage. Another contribution that Appia made was with in regard to stage lighting. The first incandescent lamp was invented in 1879. Um, by 1911, there were lamps, and when we talk about lamps, we mean the what we know as the bulb. There were lamps that could be used on stage, but they weren't powerful enough to create what the melodrama theater artists tried to accomplish with the limelight. Now we have incandescent lights, but they're not strong enough yet to create an actual spotlight. By 1915, however, these lamps had enough filaments to create enough wattage to provide us lighting through spotlights, electric lamps, filters with color, and able to actually fill the stage with light and create the visual interest and variety that Appia was wanted to see take place on stage. The second theater artist that we have to mention is Edward Gordon Craig. Edward Gordon Craig was a British theater artist, and um, he did not have a whole lot of interest in actors per se. Actors interpret things and fill their performance with emotion and feeling. They're very hard to control. He actually suggested replacing actors with large puppets. That way you could control them. But Craig had some very controversial ideas about theater because Craig believed that theater was not a fusion of all of the different art forms. We started out the course by saying that theater is a collaborative art form. Different art forms come together to create the production. Craig believed that theater was completely autonomous. We stand alone. And these elements are under the guidance of a master artist, that being the director. The director creates all of these elements and therefore has control over them. Um, and actors had a tendency to undermine this master artist's vision. That's why he wanted to replace them with puppets. But these two men had some very controversial ideas, but they were their impact during this modernist period can be seen, especially with Adolf Appia and his focus on stage lighting, but also through Edward Gordon Craig and his understanding of the power or the contribution of the master artist influence directors and theater artists into the future. Now, when we talk about modernism, we have to talk about the impact of World War I and how how that war changed the way people think. Between 1910 and 1920, three artistic movements came about that were influenced by World War I, but also reflected the sense of absurdity that the war created. This was a war that no one really understood. They couldn't figure out why it actually started, as most wars do. But once it was in motion, this war killed millions and millions of people. It was absurd. It was ridiculous. And that influenced artists, that absurdity, that ridiculousness, that hysteria that was created by this war. The first movement was a movement called Futurism, and it started in Italy. Its leader, chief spokesperson, was a man by the name of Tommaso Filippo Marinetti. And Marinetti had a very interesting life experience. There is a video that talks about him and his influence over this movement of futurism. But the futurists believed that all theater, all art, all history, recorded history, prior to this time, prior to the beginning of the 20th century, was worthless and needed to be destroyed, completely ignored. Libraries, museums, all of them, everything that they contained was worthless because the world was changing. And the only thing that we need to be concerned with was the future and what was being created now. There's very little in terms of futurist theater productions that we can refer to, but the futurists practiced something called synthetic theater, theater that shrunk time, for one thing. An example of a futurist play might be the audience is seated in a dark theater, no sound, nothing. And all of a sudden, the back door of the theater bursts open and a shaft of light comes down the center aisle. And one figure walks down the center aisle. As that happens, lights come up on stage and we see another figure standing in a pool of light. The figure standing in the aisle pulls out a gun, shoots the figure on stage. He turns around and walks out. The lights from the back of the house go out. The lights go out on the stage, slowly on the figure dead. And that's the end of the play. That's just a constructed example that I give to you, but that's you send a message immediately and it goes straight to the viewer. Synthetic theater that shrinks time. Okay, I'll end there. I'll be right back.